Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 5:30, and I will call this regular meeting of the Burnsville City Council to order. It is our tradition to stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and we invite you to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight's meeting is being conducted in person, and we have some technical issues with the Zoom, but everyone can still turn on their televisions to Comcast Channel 16 or 859, or go to burnsvillemn.gov/meetings, and you can still participate in the meetings. The public cannot join us this evening on Zoom, so we apologize for that, and we'll continue to work to fix that. But a lot of information is in the web page and in the council agenda packet. And so if there's anything that you need, you can find it there. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is announcements and proclamations. Our announcements have to do with all of our council meetings, and we have an award, and we also have a proclamation. Our scheduled council meetings, we have regular council meetings scheduled for Tuesday, April 4th at 5:30 p.m. and Tuesday, April 18th at 5:30 p.m. We have a work session that's scheduled for Tuesday, April 11th at 5:30 p.m. And tonight we have a special work session after the council meeting, and that's at 6 p.m. And then on Tuesday, April 24th, we have another special work session, and that's the city manager's performance review, and that's at 6 p.m. The annual review will be in Dakota B, and that's downstairs. So all meetings of the city council are held here in the chambers unless I announce that there's a different location for the meetings. So right now, I'm going to ask our fire chief to come forward and make the presentations. Fire Chief Vijay Jungman.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. We're here to present a life-saving award, kind of an unusual one. We're used to talking about medical situations, but on November 24th, 2022, on Thanksgiving of last year, we were called for a gas leak at the Rivers Estates up on River Hills Drive. And en route, we were notified by the dispatch center that a motor vehicle had crashed in the parking garage, hitting a gas line, and there was leaking gas inside the garage. We found out later that we had an occupant there that was visiting that shut off the gas line, opened the garage door, and quickly got people out of there, called 911, and worked with the staff. He also put out a garden hose that was on fire, and there was a sparking electrical motor that sparked off some of the gas. So his quick actions kept us from having a catastrophe at a senior facility that would have been really horrific. Gas travels fast, and when not contained can have disastrous outcomes. So his quick thinking and actions and willingness to get engaged definitely saved lives that day, and I thought it was more than appropriate that we award Mr. Nelson with his quick action. So at this time I'll ask Mr. Andy Nelson to come forward and get the life-saving award for his actions on November 24th, 2022. Without those actions, like I said, we would have had a disastrous outcome. So I greatly appreciate his willingness to get involved.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
We'll do a quick one with the council.
Yeah.
firefighters. You guys want to come
Yeah.
over here? Take a quick picture up here?
We need all our firefighters. Let's just hope it doesn't go off while you're all here,
That could happen.
because it has happened.
And one more.
Thank you. Members of the council and residents and businesses of Burnsville, you know that March is Women's History Month. And so we are here to recognize all of the wonderful women who work in our organization, and also to raise the awareness of what women have done in our society. Whereas women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our communities in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas in shattering glass ceilings, overcoming discrimination, harassment, and hardship, women have been bold and fearless, widening the circle of opportunities for women and girls and creating stronger, healthier communities. And whereas women have played and continue to play critical economic, cultural, and social roles in every sphere of the life in our communities. And whereas women have served as leaders in the forefront of every major progressive social change movement, not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunities, but also in the abolitionist movement and the emancipation movement, in the industrial labor movement, the civics rights movement, and other movements which create a more fair and just society for all. And whereas women have served our country courageously in the military and were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions, and whereas far too many and too often women's heroic efforts and their stories have gone untold, especially those of the millions of Black women, immigrant women, Indigenous women, and others from diverse communities. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Elizabeth Couts of the City of Burnsville, on behalf of the City Council, proclaim March 2023 as Women's History Month in the City of Burnsville and encourage all residents to join me in this special observance, celebrating women's contributions to society throughout history, and in particular, the contributions that women have made to the City of Burnsville. And tonight, we have some of our wonderful women here to be celebrated, and we want to take a photo with them because each and every one of us, from myself and members of the council, appreciate everything that you do. You have made a difference in our community, and so these are just a sampling of the women in Burnsville. And I would like to present this to the woman in Burnsville who has the highest office, and that's our CFO. So with that, will all of the women, no, you give that to Jay. And you, no. Yeah, you give the camera to Jay. Yeah, so if all the women could come, please. And thank you for coming out tonight. I know that you all have, and this is only a smattering because I don't see any of our police officers or our firefighters here. But we have a whole lot of great women who work in our organization. So, yeah, thank you, Tom.
Sure, absolutely. It's a job well done, Tom.
Nobody
It's on the top.
If you can't find it, ask the IT director.
No, it's not necessary.
Have you turned it on and off?
Have you unplugged it?
Especially if it's on the board.
Couple more. Then I'm gonna take one off the phone.
If anyone has more IT jokes, I'm fine with it.
He's doing great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is citizens' comments. This is the opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the council on an item that is not in a printed agenda, not an application form that will be coming before us in a future date. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council? I believe Mr. Lalibert is here to speak.
Madam Mayor, Council, and staff, Damon Lalibert. I live at 14609 Innsbrook Lane in Burnsville, which is part of the Interlochen Woods neighborhood. And I was actually before the council and the planning commission about 6 years ago during the planning and eventual approval of the Berean Baptist Church expansion for their 30,000 square foot, 1,100 seat auditorium. I will report it's been a very good partnership with the church since then. But I am here with a concern that I've brought to the church and would like your engagement on. During that planning process, you'll remember that the primary concerns of the neighborhood was the size and scope of the expansion, and also traffic mitigation through Interlochen Woods, specifically up Innsbrook Lane from South Cross on the south up to Plymouth on the north. And again, our partnership with them on that has been very good to this point. My concern rests with, during that engagement process, I saw Deb Garrels in the room tonight. She was instrumental in those neighborhood meetings and then the eventual planning for the project. One of our concerns was how else would the facility be used outside of regular church programming. One of the things we asked specifically about, because of the design and scope of the project, was would things like concerts, other events, maybe by businesses that wanted to rent out the facility, would those things take place? Because our concern, you can mitigate traffic with your congregation through socialization, right? And they've had a parking ministry. But when you have outside events or things that are for sale by ticket, it would be hard for you to tell me you could mitigate that type of traffic. And so I was surprised on Friday when I saw 2 tour buses and a semi-trailer parked on the residential side of the church. And so I engaged Kay Larson, who's the operations director at the church, to ask about that and just to ask about the event. And so I was surprised to find out that they were hosting a 2-night concert series with a former American Idol contestant. This was something that was promoted on his website. I was able to find tickets on the secondary market via StubHub, which to me, again, would tell me this is an open for the public event, not something, typical of the regular church programming. And so, again, as time passes, commitments wane, commitments are forgotten sometimes. Church leadership has changed, their pastoral team, and people come with new ideas, which I understand. But the council did issue a conditional use permit for that expansion, and I don't think we did that with the thought process being that this was going to be a concert venue. These things should be held at the Ames Center or other properly zoned facilities. And so that's my concern. As a neighbor, again, I've engaged Kay on this. I don't think we see eye to eye on it. So my ask is just that the council would engage staff to review the notes from the planning commission meetings, the engagement sessions that were held, and ultimately the city council meeting that approved the project, and engage with the neighborhood and Berean to not have these types of public for sale ticketed events take place in the future. Because again, the ultimate concern from the neighborhood is traffic mitigation. And if these things are available for sale online, the church can't tell me in good faith that they can mitigate that traffic. Happy to answer any questions you might have, but I appreciate the time tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Lalibert, I'm going to have you work with our Community Development Director and Mr. Jeff Thompson, and they'll review the conditional use permit and the PUD in the expansion and also with the parking. And then we can have that conversation with Berean as well. They have been good partners.
Yep.
They have been very accommodating. So I understand that they've been good partners to the neighborhood. But let's make sure that we take care of all of that. So Mr. Jeff Thompson, our Community Development Director, and you can exchange information and he'll be happy to work with you.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda is additions to the final agenda, and this is for emergency items only. City Manager Lindberg, are there any emergency items from staff to come before the body?
Nothing from staff, Mayor.
Members of the council? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. This is a group of items that's considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. However, an item on the consent agenda can be removed for a separate discussion and vote. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes an item on the consent agenda to be removed for a separate discussion and vote? City Manager Lindberg, anything from staff?
Nothing from staff, Mayor.
Members of the council? May I have a motion to adopt, please?
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and a motion carries. The first item on the regular agenda, and the only item on the regular agenda, is the Park View Flats rental licensing suspension. Our fire chief, B.J. Jungman, is presenting. Chief Jungman.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. If you remember, we were before you in December and enacted a rental license suspension for Parkview Flats due to a number of outstanding code violations. And I'll run through a quick presentation on kind of where we're at and why we recommend a 60-day extension. So just as a reminder, Parkview Flats is a 313-unit, three-building property owned by Bridge Parkview Flats LLC and managed by Bridge Residential Property Management LLC. So the council approved a 90-day rental license suspension on December 20th. We had a consent decree that had been negotiated and approved by the district court in February. Recently, they had a structural inspection complete with a number of recommendations. And we have seen some progress there. Many of the defective fire doors have been replaced. They still have a few that they're waiting on parts and pieces for. I would say one of my biggest concerns is that you see that we only have a handful of outstanding violations still there, 15, yet Assistant Chief Nelson did their annual fire inspection back on March 6th, and we found 36 brand-new violations. And many of those violations were the same things that we found a year ago. Trash chute doors, sheetrock in the boiler rooms that was had holes in it, things like that we've been around before and are now seeing the same thing again, and that's concerning. And so with that, we decided that it was, well, I'll get to that. Near-term steps, we want them to complete the fire door replacements. I will tell you, code enforcement is inspecting all the units this week. They started today. They'll be out there tomorrow and Thursday. They're repairing the fire code violations. They have a contract to repair the parking deck structures once the weather is suitable for that, and then we need them to address the structural inspection findings, which includes 2 of the stairwells, the main stairwells that are considered unsafe and have some structural concerns. So the city code allows for the license to be suspended or revoked, and along the way we've communicated with ownership and management. They've been notified of the proposed license suspension extension, and then we've updated residents throughout the process. We plan on updating residents following whatever action may or may not be taken tonight by the council. We did not solicit any input from the residents ahead of that to come here tonight. I will just on that front. So we would recommend a 60-day extension, which would not allow any vacant units to become vacant during that time. It allows for further action on those near-term steps, and it keeps residents in their homes. So we think this is the best way to care for the community, yet make sure that we're getting accountability. And I think that dual track with the consent decree and the rental license action, and giving them an additional 60 days, warmer weather, and the recent findings, they should be able to close out the majority of those issues that we found. So we think that's a prudent next step. So that's what I have for the council at this point. I wanted to keep it short and sweet since we had visited a number of these issues a couple of months ago, so.
Any questions for Fire Chief?
On the consent decree, if they don't follow through on that, is there a penalty under law on that?
So I'll answer to the best of my ability, but our city attorney is probably better suited.
Pouncing, you can answer that too.
So we are able to go after them and file a report and go after them in contempt of court, but we'd file another action if they don't meet deadlines and some of the requirements there, so.
Or there's deadlines in the consent decree?
There are.
There are numerous deadlines, Mayor and Council, in the consent decree on a 3-week, 1 month, 3 month, and 6 month basis, I believe. The consent decree is designed to run with the property and be valid for 5 years. If they don't meet the deadlines that we have within each of those time periods, we can approach the court on a contempt action. So that's built into the consent order, and it's certainly a remedy that's available in addition to suspension and license activities.
Are they meeting those deadlines so far?
No. Chief?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, for the most part, I would tell you there's some things that we've already kind of worked with them on, and in good faith that they have been working with us, but, you know, they're replacing fire doors without a permit. And for example, it says in here you need a permit. So they had a company working without a permit. And so I would say they're meeting most of the timelines. And some of the things are material things, and they're able to show us that they have delays, and we have no issue with that. So we're giving them the grace to meet those deadlines within reason of the things that are within their control, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for our chief? Okay. I understand that the attorney for Parkview Flats would like to speak.
I would, maybe.
Yep.
And if I might use the computer over here, we have a.
You can, I think they'll put your slide deck up and it's up.
Am I able to control it from here?
I don't think we don't have a.
No, the control,
Oh. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
your name and record for the,
Yes, my name is Matthew Byer. I'm an attorney with the law firm Lewis, Brisbois, Bisgard, and Smith. But my own address, I'm a resident of Golden Valley, 2601 Kyle Avenue North. I represent Bridge Property Management. I hope you all remember me from being here last
we
December.
do remember you, sir.
I'm representing Bridge with regard to the lawsuit that was brought last fall. That has been resolved for now with the entry of the consent decree, of course, subject to potential future action. I'm also here today. I'm accompanied by several members of Bridge Property Management, including Rachel Diller, who's a senior managing director and CIO of Bridge's Workforce and Affordable Housing Unit. With the council's permission, of course, Ms. Diller would like to also address you. I would like to just make a few comments. I'm sure you all deal with lawyers enough and would prefer to hear from her. Also here is Micah Brown, excuse me, Bridges Director of Project Management. Prolina Razmyslovich, if I said it right this time, who's our regional manager. You may recall she was here in December. And Tom Potvian, who you also might recall was here in December, wanted to be here. Unfortunately, he has some travel restrictions due to a medical issue. So he wanted to be here, could not, unfortunately. But we're here today to focus on the changes that Bridge has made and the progress that we've made over the last 90 days since the suspension was originally initiated. Ms. Diller is particularly going to address Bridge's mission statement, what Bridge's intentions here in Burnsville are, and some of the structural and process changes that they've made at Parkview Flats. I would just briefly like to kind of address, the legal issue, so to speak, the compliance that I believe that we've had with the action plan that the City Council required us to enter into, which also served as the consent decree in the litigation. I think, as the Chief mentioned, I think that the Fire Department has seen progress in terms of communication, compliance, addressing outstanding code violations. I'm certainly not going to argue that we have a completely clean inspection report at this point. There are some fire doors that are scheduled to be replaced within the next couple of weeks. We have had issues, which we built into the language of the action plan with regard to sourcing parts, dealing with suppliers and things like that. And I appreciate the fire department's patience and willingness to work with us on some of those issues. But when I was here in December, and this is the first slide we have up here, I represented to the council, and I think it's true, that we had already made some substantial progress since the issues the fire department first really started noticing in May 2022. And I won't, go through every number here, but I think we were at the table. We were doing our best to cooperate with the city, even back in December. And I think that we've only improved our cooperation since the rental license was suspended. As you know, the resolution was passed. It required us to enter into an action plan, which myself and my colleague Emily Sir, who couldn't be here today either because she's was involved in another case, but we worked with the city attorney to develop the action plan. Worked very well, I think, with the city attorney to develop the action plan. And as he said a few moments ago, there's several different levels of deadlines built within that. We're still very early on, and of course, quite a bit of work had to be done right away, and we have done quite a bit of work right away. But there are ongoing obligations imposed by the action plan, and actually some of those obligations go on for the next couple of years as far as developing plans to make replacements with fire sprinkler systems, and we've been working on that as well. So since December, we do still have outstanding violations. Most of these are fire doors. Some of them had passed prior inspections and subsequently broke, and so new fire doors have come up, and we've had to replace those. The numbers, I will say, I've expressed this to the city attorney as well. The inspection reports that I see often have 4 or 5 different documents from one inspection. It's a little difficult to see exactly what a discrete violation is. So some of our numbers may not quite match up with what the city is saying, but I think what the fire department is saying. But I think the important part is, as the chief said, we have made progress. We have lowered the number of outstanding code violations. We think we're down to a few, all of which have either been corrected since the last inspection and are waiting re-inspection, or are scheduled to be fixed within the next week or so. One point that I want to make is, and these are some of the new issues that we saw crop up in the last few inspections. There was an inspection on February 27th. There were inspections on March 6th and March 13th, which is about a week ago. And my understanding is at least one of those inspections was the annual inspection that usually takes place in May. It was bumped up a couple of months, a little earlier. The May inspection from 2020 that we focused on quite a bit back in December was an annual inspection. There are issues in a property this big that are going to come up and come up at the last second, lights going out, residents, doing things to the property. I mean, there's a history here. As you'll recall, the fire that occurred last August that I think very much concerned the fire department was an act of arson. Sometimes residents will, manhandle trash chutes and cause pieces of doors to break and things like that. So there are new issues, and Ms. Diller will address this, but that we have, changed our processes to address those issues more expeditiously and to be more proactive in our maintenance. I think that we're doing a good job. I think the fire department has acknowledged that we've been making progress. So, to cut to the chase, for my point, my part of this presentation, we would ask the city council reject the proposal to extend the suspension. We think that the purpose of the suspension was to ensure that we were improving our response to maintenance issues at the property, to improve our response to outstanding fire code violations to make sure that we're maintaining communication with the city. And I think we've done all that. Extending the rental license is going to have an impact on Bridge's finances, which is going to impact their ability to reinvest in the property and the community. And Ms. Diller is going to address some of how Bridge has invested already and intends to continue investing in the property and the community. I also would like to point out my concern with the language of the proposed resolution, acknowledging that if the city does proceed with accepting the fire department's proposal, that they'll adopt presumably the resolution that was attached to the agenda. I think the language of the resolution itself does not really reflect what the fire chief has even said tonight himself, which is that there has been some real improvement, and the resolution includes language about how unsafe the property is. We would obviously dispute that the property is unsafe. The other concern I have with the way the resolution is set out is that it is very kind of boilerplate. It says that there's going to be a 60-day extension. There's no real additional benchmarks. As someone who was involved in negotiating the action plan and working with both the city and Bridge to make sure that we're sticking to the action plan, I think that we have complied with the action plan up to this point. And I think that we've done what the city wanted us to do when they initially suspended the license. So I think to say that we just need to continue to comply with the action plan is doesn't provide clear direction as to what the city wants to see from Bridge over the next 60 days in order to get its license back. So I would ask that even if the city decides to proceed with extending the suspension, that they would include some real tangible benchmarks so that we have a clear picture of what it is that you want to see from us over the next 60 days in order to get our license back, to start renting those units that become vacant because of lease expirations and what have you, so that we can, continue to build our business and make those reinvestments in both the property and the community. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll turn things over to Ms. Diller.
I don't have any questions for you. Chief, I think you do have an action plan in place, but please speak to it.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I don't know if we want to hear from the other Bridge person first, or if you want me to.
I think answer this, and then I'll get to what Ms. Dillard wants to speak to us about.
Yeah, I mean,
Because this is about the resolution and about the 60-day extension.
Sure, yeah, Madam Mayor, members of the council, yeah, they've made progress, but I would just remind you that the only protection in here is fire doors, sheetrock, and fire alarms. This does not have a sprinkler system in it. And yes, there may be some tenant stuff, but I can tell you that almost every trash chute door, as of 3 o'clock this afternoon, wasn't working. It's the same stuff we identified a year ago. We've had 4 significant fires in this building, in a sole building, in a year. We haven't had that at any other complex, let alone a single address, right? Now, they may have been arson fires, they may be undetermined, but it still speaks to the risk that this property has. They're replacing fire doors. There's doors that they replaced in the laundry room with glass interior pantry doors that were fire doors. They've made it less safe in some cases. We have an engineering report that says you have 2 unsafe stairwells that are structurally deficient. I mean, and the consent decree says that they need to maintain it talks about, to the best of their ability, compliance with property rules, city codes, and fire code. I would interpret that as, in an ongoing issue, we shouldn't come back and find a laundry list of the same things that we found. And this continues to be the same stuff over and over and over again. Yeah, they complete one list, but now we create a whole nother list. And it takes a lot of resources, and we have a lot of places in town that could use our resource. Unfortunately, this comes to the top of the list with the risks that we've experienced there. And so, yeah, I hear what he's saying as far as is what we want to see. I want to see compliance with the fire code. I want to see the stairwells fixed that were identified in the structural report. I want to see the stuff that's going to be identified through these code enforcement inspections fixed and communicated with. And I had the opportunity to meet with their Micah, I don't remember his title, but from their property, and they brought him in the past couple of weeks, and it sounds like he's got a great plan. But as I told him, You know, actions speak louder than words, and we've been on this for over a year now, and I want to see action. I don't trust any words that come out of that property management mouth anymore, because I've heard it over and over and over again, and at some point, we've got to take some action. And yep, they've made good progress, and the reason we wanted an extension is because we wanted to keep people in their homes, and we've seen some progress forward. And we thought that was the right thing to do for their residents, yet continuing to hold them accountable because we continue to find these issues.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Mrs. Dillard, you want to speak to us? Welcome.
Thank you very much for making the time, and I do want to circle back just to some of the Chief's comments with respect to the progress, but I first really wanted to take the opportunity to introduce myself. I'm Rachel Diller. I'm the Co-Chief Investment Officer for Bridge Workforce and Affordable Housing Funds, which owns this property, and I'm a Senior Managing Director at the firm. I really want to just, before I make a few remarks that are tied, I think, to the next couple of pages on the slides, just begin by expressing my sincere regret about the way we've started our relationship with the city. We bought the property a little over a year ago. We're new to Burnsville, and I'm really here this evening to ensure that we establish an open and direct line of communication with the city, with the council, with staff, to ensure that we're addressing your concerns and addressing the needs of the property. We're committed to being a partner with the city, as we are, frankly, in every other community where we operate, to establish and maintain a safe and productive community for our residents. We are long-term owners and operators of workforce housing. We expect to be, as we are everywhere, upstanding members of the Burnsville community. I appreciate that this council and city staff have already spent quite a lot of resources and time on the property, and so I'll be brief this evening. I'm grateful for the opportunity to take a step back, introduce you to Bridge, introduce you to what our plans are at Parkview, and most importantly, what we and I personally are committing to the community and to going forward. So with that, am I going in and out? Is this okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've got the, I'm going the wrong direction. Okay, great. So just briefly, wanted to say, who is Bridge? So we are a vertically integrated real estate investment company. We have properties in 36 states, and our Bridge Property Management, which is fully owned by us, the property management arm, we're over 1,400 people strong, and that is our on-the-ground force in the communities. So we strive to create energetic and safe communities that become more than just four walls and a roof. So Bridge was among one of the first owner-operators to integrate on-site social and community programming, which we do in all of our properties. And I'm looking forward to telling you a little bit about what we're doing at Parkview in that regard. Here you see some projects, some photos from some of the community engagement we've already begun at Parkview. What's our approach? Our approach is to modernize and preserve older communities with functional upgrades and amenities to improve our residents' quality of life. I understand that this property has a storied history well before our coming on the scene. This is not unfamiliar to us in terms of what we do around the country, in terms of what our mission is and what our plans are. So I want to mention the on-site community and programming. We have a long-term relationship and partnership with a not-for-profit called Project Access. They're national. They work with us everywhere, where we, out of our cash flow from every property, including Parkview Flats, pay for a full-time on-site social services coordinator to be in our properties. We also, through our own capital, create purpose-built space for them, about 1,000 square feet, to create a resource center just for our residents, okay? That provides after-school programs that is catered towards the needs of our community. So we have our Project Access Coordinator just began in February, and as some of the folks in the city know, we're in working with the city to get a permit to convert one of our units that we've taken offline, given up revenue for, about 1,000 square feet, 2-bedroom unit that we're converting into an on-site resource center. So that's underway. In the meantime, we have our project coordinator who has started in mid-February, and she's working out of our clubhouse and doing day-to-day programming. So this is a hallmark of what we do in our workforce housing and is just an illustration of how we think about community and what we plan to do at Parkview. The third thing is I want to mention is we're long-term holders of real estate, right? We have a mandate in our fund to commit that at least 51% of the units in our fund and in each property are set aside for folks who are basically what we call the missing middle, making, kind of a maximum income of 80% of AMI. So that is, like Parkview, like other properties, that commitment is by virtue of our ownership. So we intend to hold long-term. Our investors want us to hold long-term, and that is what we intend to do here. We're new, but we're going to be here with you for a while. We look forward to building the relationship. A few things I just wanted to mention about, I'm having trouble seeing the slides, just about what we've been doing, right? We've talked, and I want to come back a little bit to some of the specifics on the violations, but I think the approach is really important. First of all, in mid-February, we hired a new terrific property manager, Tony Erickson. Tony is with us, and her children are here trying to stay awake, so I'm going to move quickly. Tony, thank you for being here. Tony has a successful track record of 8 years in the Burnsville market. She has a proven history of effectively managing annual fire and safety rental inspections with the city of Burnsville. And one of the things that's been really helpful is she's brought in local vendors, right? We're newer to the area, so she's helped us bring in local vendors that we think will allow us to operate the property better. Just since she's been with us, she's been able to refer a new cleaning vendor who's starting, I think, the first of the month, and really just bringing that local know-how so that we can execute our operating standards. The second is we have replaced the entire maintenance team. A lot of what needs to happen is both on the construction management side, but it's really the day-to-day maintenance of our properties. Hiring in property management right now is not easy, but since October, and since frankly I think a lot of the original issues that were raised by the council, we have completely turned over the maintenance team, and we still have a couple of spots open, but in the meantime we've brought in people from Kansas City, from Chicago, from our other properties to staff across the country to staff the property, and they're here to make sure that everything gets done. Also, myself and Micah, other senior leadership from all around the firm have been here on a regular basis and will continue to be here as we stabilize what's happening out at Parkview. A couple of other things just super that we're doing. We're doing interior apartment inspections. We've conducted 100% interior apartment inspections every month from January, February, and March, and we will continue to do it as the property gets stabilized. Our standard kind of operating protocol is to do that on a quarterly basis. We are weekly. Our teams are going around and inspecting all the fire doors, inspecting all of the trash chutes, the stairwells, right, to ensure that the work that we're doing is maintained. We are complying with the city's self-inspection report, performing an inspection of each building and providing the city with a weekly report in your form to address all of the items at the property. And we're doing a lot trash monitoring. This has been an issue since we took over the property. Twice a day, our on-site teams are going and visiting all of the trash areas throughout the property, including the trash doors. And when required, we're going and submitting work orders and getting them repaired. We're walking the property, picking up trash, and weekly, of course, we have outside haulers. So continuing to manage the trash at this property is been an ongoing effort, and these are the policies we have in place and will continue with. Just as evidence for a lot of the progress that we're making, you can see that throughout the last several months, we've really been able to get up and totally take care of all of our service requests. As of yesterday, we only have 5 outstanding service requests. For a 313-unit property with hundreds and 500 people living there, that's pretty good. So this is the standard to which we hold ourselves. We're not beating our chest about it. This is what we expect to do, and this is what you're going to see from us going forward. A couple of things. We've talked about the investments in the property, right? So there's everything we've agreed to do in the consent decree. Some of that is proactive and in the future, but given the time frame in which it takes to get things going. But we've already invested a tremendous amount in the property. There's almost $900,000 here that's been invested in life safety repairs, replacements, and improvements, including mold remediation, electrical repairs, fire safety, etc. And then Also, we've spent almost $2 million overall improving the enhancement to the property. I don't think I have a picture of it here, but and of course it's covered in snow now, but we put in a full soccer field. This is a community, I was there this morning, the bus comes, a lot of kids are there, right? So we're really focused on creating amenities for our tenants, our residents, dog parks, et cetera. So, and then of course, making replacements to doors and appliances, et cetera. So we're investing in the property, and we've done a lot already. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit more about Project Access. I already did. Project Access is our long-term partner. We are investing over $200,000 in the conversion of that unit to a resource center. It's in process. And we're working with the city. I think we submitted for the construction permit in mid-February. We look forward to getting that. As I mentioned, our coordinator started in mid-February, and she's hosting upcoming events. And this is really where kind of the rubber meets the road in terms of what we're doing with workforce housing. We have after-school programs in financial literacy, computer labs, and food pantries. This is just what it's going to look like. This is a standard. This is, as I said, we're in construction. We're kind of down to the studs in the unit, but this is what we look like. Look, this is one of our properties, and this is illustrative of how it will look. And then this is just, one of our properties where we've executed into the business plan very similarly. This is Topaz Springs in Vegas. And this was a property that we acquired in 2018, similar size as Parkview. And at the time we bought it, it was really in disrepair. It had not been taken care of in the way that we would like it to be. And since then, we've invested similarly in the property. We've really, through Project Access and everything we do at the community, revitalized the community. We won the Nevada Apartment Association Community of the Year. And we continue to kind of maintain and preserve the affordability of the asset. So this is what I hope to be talking about to you with this kind of illustration of what we're doing here at Parkview, and this really reflects our values and our commitment to you. Madam Mayor, do you want to see if there's questions or?
No, I don't have any questions of you. I just want to say thank you for sharing who you are as Bridge.
Thank you.
And it's good to know that you're investing in the property, because that's your property.
Yes.
For us, it's about the life and safety of your residents, our community members. So we have a shared responsibility. So with all of the amenities that you're putting in and the things that you're doing, what we need to make sure is that you continue, that Parkview Flats is held accountable to get all of that. Our relationship will get stronger as you continue to work with our staff, and in 6 months, and in 60 days, our fire chief will be standing before us and saying, all of the life, safety, and health issues have been resolved. That's my goal, is to hear that. Because your goal in making sure that you have amenities that will enrich the lives of your residents is great news. But for us, it's about life safety and health.
Yes, and it is for us as well. And if I could just say, it is for us as well. And so I really want to go back to what we were saying earlier, which is that, we really have made tremendous progress in terms of what we do. And I'm not looking for applause. That's our requirement. That's what we commit to you, but I do appreciate it. We commit that to you. We owe that to you and, of course, to our residents, right? What I would like to say, though, is that with respect to some of the newer things, and I just want to go back to one of these slides that Matt referred to, is that, the point of and the purpose of the of the suspension in December was really to get us to come up with an action plan, right? And to come to the table and be engaged. I believe everyone around this room can say that we have done that. We have an action plan. We are on schedule with that action plan, okay? We have been responsive, and we will continue to be responsive. If you look at some of the newer things that the chief was referring to on this page, just in the last 2 weeks, these things have been brought up. And everything on this page, except for 3 things, which are either scheduled to get corrected this week or next week, have already been corrected. So I would submit for consideration that we have made and continue to demonstrate a huge commitment to compliance, and that really what we're doing, and so that the purpose of the suspension has been fulfilled. The downside for us and for us as a community is we have housing, much needed housing in the community that's sitting on the sidelines that's not available for rent. And it is certainly our position that suspension or further suspension or not, our actions will continue to be the same. Our commitments are in writing. We are making huge progress, and we appreciate that prior to December it was not fast enough, right? What we can see since then is tremendous, I think, tremendous progress. And, you know, really just all of the inspections, even over the last couple of weeks, we've been able to address and fix. So it would certainly be our request that the council consider reinstating the license, knowing that we are here and engaged in the partnership and the commitments that we've made.
Councilmember Keeley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Listening to your presentation, I certainly appreciate all the things that you're representing, what you've done in your other properties. It's about 9 months later than it should have been, and that's, I think, what we're all wrestling with. Is it took a suspension and some legal action to actually get the people here who should have been here 9 months ago addressing these issues. It's great that they're moving forward, but I'm 100% in agreement with Chief Jungman that he's been given lip service for 9 months and actions didn't really start happening until they were forced. So you come before us with a lot of skepticism on this side of this table because we've heard it and we've heard it and we've heard it and we didn't see things happening. The other thing I wanted to point out is, whereas I'm grateful that eventually one day, hopefully in the near future, all of this will come to fruition, it's when you're describing all of the amenities and features of living there, none of them relate to fire doors or drywall that isn't punched with holes or water dripping problems. It was like, you know, come live here in Parkview Flats. You're going to live in potentially some potential mold, some bad lighting, some bad fire doors, no fire. But we're going to give you a great rec room and a great soccer field and a nice pool. There's something wrong with the priorities.
I don't, just respectfully, I think that just, again, we're making a presentation together, right? So we've been through, and I'm happy to go back through, and Matt, if you want to join me, to go back through everything. The most important thing is the life safety, right? So that's what we're addressing first.
Yeah.
And we have made significant progress there.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And so that is the most important thing, right? I'm saying that is the most important thing. That's what we need to do. We have done that. We have entered into a contract that we're making significant progress. We are on schedule with it. In fact, things that just came up over the last week or two, right, which is naturally to happen, we have already resolved. So that the other things are a context of who we are and what you can expect, but we're not meaning to distract from what's most important. And I hope that what we've expressed in terms of kind of what we understand in terms of the current outstanding violations and the progress we've made, which I know is the most important thing, is not lost.
And I would, if I may,
Yes.
may respond. I hear you, and if we could dial the clock back 9 months and you were standing before us, whole different scenario. It's great that you've come forward and that you've hired a new property manager that I assume will starkly contrast to the atrocious manager that you had to let go of, because that's the person that was leading chief and the inspectors down a path of lip service and nothing being done. And unfortunately, touring the property, we all see and got to witness firsthand the living conditions, which were, they reminded me, I thought I was walking through a third world country.
And when was the last time you toured, if I might ask?
Last summer,
Okay. So,
Fall, probably.
yeah,
And, like, for example, I don't know when, and this hopefully will get resolved when the weather's nicer. We were walking through the parking garage and there was a lake in the middle of the ground, or, the surface, right? And we happened to catch a resident who was getting out of her car and trying to traverse around this giant body of water to get to the staircase. And we asked her, I stopped her and asked her, I said, how long has this water been sitting here? She'd lived there for over 2 years. She said, it's always been here as long as I've lived here. I said, how long have you been here? She said, 2.5 years. And it's never dried up. And standing water organically grows things that aren't healthy for the human body. So
Yeah.
that alone was a testament to no one's paying attention to the store, right? No one's paying attention to the details or the living quality here. Walking around the buildings inside, people, sort of looked like there was a couple folks in the hallway that looked like they were just sort of living there in the hallway, but I'm sure they were in a unit somewhere, but they didn't want to be in the unit. The hallway might have been cleaner than the unit they lived in, and it was, and of course the missing drywall, the dripping, the makeshift water collection points in the laundry room. It was horrible. I mean, I can't imagine anyone wanting to live there. So it's great that you're bringing forward all these things that are amenities and features, but there has to be a ton of work done. And until our chief comes before us and tells us that all of the life safety issues have been rectified 100%, and it's a safe, clean place for someone to live, all the talk in the world is meaningless.
well, and if it was okay with you, Madam Mayor, I guess I would ask if it, I think the purpose of the suspension, right, was to make a significant amount of progress, and I think you visited in the summer, and the suspension was in December. So, yes, I'm promising what's coming, but we're here to explain what has taken place, which I know is the purpose of this council.
And we do know what's taken place. So, but what I want to make sure that other members of the council's voices are heard.
Of course.
Because the thing is, right now, we believe that we need to continue to hold you accountable to make sure that they all get cured. Not just that you're doing a great job so far. So we appreciate that because it's your building, it's your asset. But it is our community members and your residents. Councilmember Workman.
Thank you, and I don't want to belabor the things that Councilmember Keeley said. I had notes that echoed a lot of the same observations that he made. I walked the property this winter, maybe 2 months ago, and witnessed the exact same things, inside and outside. So what this, for me at least, it boils down to is trust. I don't want to sound cynical, but I'm lacking some trust right now. I'm seeing progress, but as our chief stated, it seems like when 2 doors open, 3 more close, there might be progress here and we're seeing setbacks here. And so until our boots on the ground, namely our fire chief, is comfortable, I'm gonna support his decision because right now I'm not trusting what I'm hearing based on what I've seen.
City Manager Lindberg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Certainly, I appreciate the opportunity to hear from Bridge, and I want to allow the council to continue any dialogue that you feel is necessary. However, I do think it's important that the staff recommendation on this item is a 60-day extension.
Yeah.
And that staff recommendation is purely in regards to ensuring that the work that we've discussed, the public life safety work that we've discussed, continues to happen. I'm confident in our fire department's work, certainly alongside the city attorney. And I will say, to me, this is really the essence of my job, right? Yeah. I'm here to make sure that we're caring for Burnsville as a community, the people who live, work, play here. I'm also here to protect the safety and the well-being of our fire and police staff who respond to, in this case, 4 fires in the last year in this particular facility. That frankly scares me. It scares me for the well-being of the residents of these facilities, and it scares me for the well-being of our staff. And I think that's an important, note to make in terms of the staff recommendation. I do know that Chief Junman has a few more points regarding current public life safety concerns. If you'd like to hear that, I would turn it back to him, but certainly defer to you, Mayor.
Yeah. Chief, do you have other points that you would like to make? Yeah, because one of the things is that it's all about making sure that the property is safe, and I agree with council members Keeley and Workman. It is about accountability.
Yeah, Madam Mayor,
Chief.
members of the council, I would agree. I mean, we know that our life safety risks really resides the highest amount in these non-sprinklered apartment buildings of this age. So I had our staff go out this afternoon and just see where we're at, where some of these open code violations are in case they came up tonight. So for instance, this door on the left is the door they replaced the laundry room with. I understand they're working on replacing them today and tomorrow. But they replaced a full fire door with a glass door like that. So again, they're gonna be replaced in the next couple days. Here you see the door not sealing. That's a fire door on a trash room. Again, things we had noted last year that were re-violations recently. Here's the door closer missing from that door, so that door, if someone opens it, does not close. So then smoke enters that stairwell, and that whole stairwell becomes charged with smoke if there's a fire in there. Again, that's their only protection, is there's nothing closing that fire door. So if someone opens it and doesn't manually close it, nothing closes that fire door. That's concerning to us, because now we've migrated smoke throughout a building. Here's a door we saw last year that sticks open and doesn't close all the way. Sheetrock, as of this afternoon, in a stairwell and in all the boiler rooms, continue to have missing sheetrock. So there's smoke migration, fire migration between areas. Just about every trash chute door didn't close on the property. This one doesn't have a fusible link. Usually there's a chain across there. Clearly it's stuck open because if a fire starts in the dumpster, the fusible link in the spring would close that door to keep the fire from going up the chute. Right now, that chute door is stuck open, and if a fire were to occur, it's gonna migrate up all 5 floors into the trash rooms in that building. So again, these are common issues. These were still outstanding as of this afternoon. So I know they've made progress, but I continue to have the same concern for life safety, that we continue to find these issues time and time again. And they are maintenance issues. I get, residents can be hard on those doors and things need to happen, but I can tell you that this isn't widespread across every property in town. We have plenty of properties that have trash chute doors that are able to manage them. So we think it's most prudent to continue the path and the staff recommendation with the continued suspension and hopefully the rectification of all these issues, so we don't have a continuous process. So we're not back before you time and time and time again. So.
Okay. Ms. Dillard and members of the Parkview Flats, tonight we're here to act on the extension to the suspension. And we appreciate the work that you've done, but we need to make sure that there is accountability and that you continue to move forward with the work that needs to be done. And I would recommend highly that you work with our staff. Sit down, identify what you can do, and work with our fire chief and his staff, and that's how we'll get through all of this. Yeah. It's about accountability and curing all of the violations, that your renters, your residents are safe, our community members are safe. Members of the council, before us this evening is the extension of the suspension by 60 days.
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Keeley makes a motion, second by Councilmember Workman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate your partnership in continuing to ensure the safety and life safety of the building. Mayor, members of the council, there are no other items to come before us this evening, and a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. And we will be back with the work session as soon as the room is set up, and probably 45 minutes?
I would say by 7, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, okay, very good. Thank you, and thank you for being with us.